Okay, let me just double check. Yep, we're all good to go. Okay, let's tweet this out. So, welcome to our Acolyte Episode 6 pre-watch party, where we're going to talk about what the fuck's going to happen. Six pre-watch party. Alright, that should be that all done. Let me get my coffee. There we go. We're all looking good. Let me get up. Why hasn't it got the chat up? Why hasn't it got the chat up? I can't see the chat. Give me 2 seconds, folks. And I will be with you. There we go. Excellent. Hey, Jay Welsh. How are things in Maryland? There we go. Now I've got the chat up properly. So, yes, we are back. Another week, another episode of The Acolyte. I think I'm going to be a bit brazen and say that I think that, you know, although there's still been some dissenters, I think this week has been the most controversy-free week since The Acolyte came out. We've not had anyone have a fit over something really insignificant. I think the worst that we got was someone trying to, nitpick the Saber fight from last week and apply real-life logic to it, which I think is never going to work. But I think we've had a fairly decent week, which is strange. It feels like normally I've had to put out some kind of a video or I've got a topic to talk about, which is just kind of really strange. I mean, obviously, the people who didn't like the show still didn't even like last week's episode. They still found things to nitpick. But the things that they are trying to talk about now just are nitpicks. There's nothing stupid, you know? So, yes. Hey, Elle, how are you doing? Hello, Think Beyond. Hello, Ian Borngreber. I hope I pronounced that. Hey, Joseph, how are you all doing? It's good to see you all here so early. We are starting a little early because I thought, it'd be nice to have a bit of extra time to talk over the next episode and just kind of expand upon last week. Now that we've all had a week to kind of grieve, and kind of just absorb everything that happened, because I think that people now are starting to appreciate that this show was one that was there for the long run. Like, you can't judge it based off the first 3 or 4 episodes. You have to give it time. And I think that these next 3 episodes, there's going to be a lot of expansion on the story that's going to tie into the earlier episodes, and I think that's going to clarify a lot of issues that some people might have had, or at least story-wise, I'm hoping. I still get the feeling this might be a flashback episode. If not all of it, a good chunk of it will be flashback. So, lived in London, UK, the late 80s, and my father lives in London. Thanks for doing this pre-show. No worries. London is kind of like a country to itself, really. I'm not a huge fan of whenever I have to go to London because it's very crowded. It's unlike most other cities. I don't like city living at the best of times, but London's kind of a different animal. If I have to go on the tube, I'm not a happy bunny. Best combat we've had in Star Wars, Maul vs. Obi was great too, but with really bad endings. So I think it was definitely on par with, some of the best that we've had. I'm never a huge fan of trying to compare things and saying which is better, because everyone has their own opinion. And every fight is different for different reasons. There's more emotion in some fights than others. All that you can say is, did it feel like a Star Wars lightsaber fight? Absolutely. Was it good? Yes. Did you have fun? Yes. And if you can answer those questions with yeses, then you're already doing something right. So, and everyone else is going to have, their opinions on how good it was. Yes, it is. It's currently 20-1 in the morning. So I just hope it's not a flash. I think we are gonna get a flashback in some form, El. I think we will. Hey, Think Beyond, proud of your weight loss journey. Thank you. I finally kind of kicked back into losing weight after a bit of a stall for a couple of months. I'd been experimenting with like batch cooking, and some of the stuff was quite heavy, even though it wasn't like big portions, because you batch cook and you serve it up what you can eat. But I've tried just going to lean meats now, like chicken, gammon, stuff like that. Kind of lowering the carb intake, and I've seen a good result in the last couple of weeks. I'm down about 5 or 6 pounds, so I'm almost under the 300-pound mark for the first time in 15 years. So it's exciting. It is. Pouring a few out for Red Shirt Jedi. Yes, Red Shirt Jedi, Jackie, Yord. But you know what? I'm really glad they took those risks, because I think that it's I don't know, it just feels like going the safe route wouldn't have been viable, because like you have to have your villain be a threat, and it separates as well the people who do survive. Like, I'm now thinking Venestra is going to come in and wipe up, and that says that she is, and so she should be, because she is a Master Jedi. Venestra Rowe has been, a student of the game for a long time at this point, so she should be far more capable than a Jackie or a Yord. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she does. Show is not perfect, but I'm enjoying it. Certainly entertains, in my opinion. I agree. I think that's the perfect summation of it. It's not perfect. There's definitely issues. The acting, for one. The editing is another. Funnily enough, I was looking through the next video I plan on doing is about some of the concept art behind lightsabers for the show, and the concept art was far better than the lightsabers that we got. So I think that's another issue. But on the opposite side of that, I really like the actual costume design. When they've been on location, it's looked really good. I like most of the characters, and some of the acting performances are really good. So it's kind of like it's 50-50 for me. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. There's some really good parts. Zuko's just decided to close the door that he's now going to spend the next 10 minutes trying to open again. This is what it's like trying to YouTube with a cat. Favorite emotional fight was Luke versus Vader in episode 6, but it did have some painful cutaways, just like the Acolyte. Yes, but the thing that I loved, and this is why it's my favorite lightsaber fight in all the Star Wars, is because the emotion was there, but it tied into those cutaways. You see the struggle of the Rebel Alliance in what is still the best space battle, and to a lesser extent the battle on the ground on Endor. So when all those things combined, I was absolutely loving it. Are we talking spoilers here or not? Yes, pretty much. As long as it's not spoilers for like leaks or anything, but we can talk about everything that's been on screen to this point. So up to episode 5. So yeah. Thank you, Earl. Appreciate it. I'm hoping that it does continue. I'm not expecting it to be, massive gains in a short period of time, but I'm setting myself a goal by next birthday, which is May. I'd like to be at about 250, so another £50. I think that's doable. That's what, £5 a month? I can do it. Those risks up the stakes and put weight to the story. Yeah, speaking of weight, yes, it absolutely did. Because now you've got to think to yourself, and how many people have I seen on social media in the last week saying, oh my God, Soul's not going to survive? And I think that is a good possibility, and that's how you engage your audience. The problem that I've always had is that in The Mandalorian, apologies again, Zuko is on his cat tree trying to interrupt. In The Mandalorian, that the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, is probably going to survive. There's like a 99% chance he's going to survive whatever the story is that season, because there's going to be another season. There's going to be a movie. But in this, because it's a self-contained season, and even if there is a second season, We've been told by Leslie Headland that this season's story will end definitively. That means that there is not going to be any kind of, cliffhanger. There's not going to be any, loose threads left. It might open to another story for season 2, but the characters and the story for this season will be resolved by the end of it. And that means 3 episodes. That means that anyone is fair play. What's the kitten's name? How old, male or female? So that is Zuko. Let me just move the camera. This is Zuko. He is 5 years old. In fact, it's been, as of Saturday, it was our 5th anniversary of getting him. He was born in April, but we picked him up on the 30th of June, 2019. And he's a boy. He's a very judgmental and temperamental boy, but he's also very loving and soppy at times. He's just, he's hot and cold. Aren't you, buddy? Yeah? You don't like other cats? Or people? You only like me? Yeah. Yes, so that's Zuko. Just going to put this camera back up here. There we go. So your mother did the same surgery and lost like 110 pounds, 50 kilograms. Yeah, it is an effective surgery. I can't deny it. Even to this day, I still feel the effects. It's something that I would say, if you can avoid it, if you can lose it naturally, do it, because it's not an easy option whatsoever. Basil better survive. Yeah. Although part of me, I don't know, I'm a vindictive, sick individual, so if Basil was to be brutally murdered by May disguised as Osha when he sniffs her out, I say if that serves the story, then Basil, you're gonna get butchered. That's just the way it is. I love that she had a plan going into the series of where she wants the stories to go. Yeah, and I think again, this is where patience needs to come into it. Modern day audiences, and I can say this because I'm 36 and I grew up with the 90s TV shows that, were 20 odd episodes long, and we're not always kind of season long stories. I think the idea of patience is a lost art. People are very short-tempered and they want everything to be answered now. They don't like mystery, they don't like cliffhangers, they don't like waiting, and I feel like that's just not the way to enjoy yourself. There's nothing better than having, a story drag on and the mystery build and the suspense build for you to get that payoff. But now everyone wants all the details of the story here and now. And that's what I think it is with this show. And it's probably doubly to its disadvantage because it is a show that doesn't have any established characters. It doesn't have any established kind of story to it. It's one of those where it's like, it's the High Republic. It's long before the characters that we've had established. And, obviously there's already that stigma around it being Disney and it being very woman-centric and diverse. But I think for the most part, if people are just patient and let the story play out, it will look far better. It would look far better watching episodes 1 to 8 back to back than it probably would being, staggered. And that's not me advocating for dumping all the episodes at once. It's probably me advocating for the episodes to be paced a little better. But also audiences having a bit more patience, Indeed, Elle is our resident Canadian, Still really want to visit Canada at some point. I really do. Prediction: the stranger shows up before the fire and stirs things up with witches and pretends to be a Jedi. Chaos ensues and Jedi come on the scene mid-carnage. Not a spoiler, I promise. I think that... you talk about the flashback, because I'm assuming that you are. I don't think that he shows up as the stranger. I think that he was there as part of the Coven. I think that, maybe not a part of the Coven, but certainly interacting with the Coven. I think that, he knew Mother Coral, who was the Zabrak witch. And I think between them, something happened. I think there was a larger plan to get rid of the Jedi or place blame on the Jedi, and things just kind of went crazy. Who knows, it could even be to do with the Sith Master, because again, I'm still not convinced that the Stranger is the Master. I think he's the apprentice. You got 2 cats yourself? Nice. Everyone say hello to Dennis, who thinks I'm a shill. I wish I got paid for this, you know. Also, I do like the idea that anyone could call me a shill when I have quite publicly voiced my dissatisfaction with the sequels. I'm just not hateful, and I have an open mind, Dennis. You know, I like diversity. I'm willing to give anything a chance, and I don't grift, you know. I have integrity, I think is the word I'm looking for. Something that a lot of those kind of right-wing YouTubers that make the same videos on and on every week that, you know, ironically make their living off of Star Wars but say Star Wars is dead. I have the integrity that they don't have because I just watch and enjoy. And, you know, I'll give my honest opinion. But yes, welcome, Dennis. I get a feeling you're probably not going to stick around for long. No one will be sad. Do you have any predictions on what happened to Sol in the upcoming episode? So I think he's going to go and chase after... I think the Stranger is going to take Osha. I think he's going to figure out that the person on his ship is May, and that means that the Stranger has taken Osha on the other ship, and he's going to turn around and chase after them, and that's where we're going to get that scene of the 2 ships chasing each other through the ring of the planet. That's my prediction. But yeah, I think that he's going to have... Maybe he's going to open up to May, and we'll get that flashback. But I think eventually he's going to figure out that she's not Osha. Then he's going to figure out, oh shit, Osha's actually still with the Stranger, and he's going to go after her. And this is going to be a space chase. But I think eventually he's probably... I think he's probably going to die. Maybe not this next episode, but I think by the end of the show. So... Lost Art of weekly episode drops. Yeah, I think that it was easier because not every show had every episode tying into the main story. You know, I think we miss the, you know, very much like Mandalorian Season 1, where every episode was almost self-contained, only had little tidbits of the main story running right through it. And from there, you know, you would eventually get to the main story point in the last couple of episodes, but you could watch any of them self-contained, and they were just kind of like their own little stories. They had little hints, little seeds that would plant for the main story. I think that's the better way of doing it, but it's hard with a murder mystery, I guess, because that is the entire point of the show. So, yeah. I was frustrated with the pacing of Ahsoka, but then went back and rewatched it, played out better. Yeah, my issue with Ahsoka was very much the back end of the season. Once they get to Peridia, I felt like the show lost all sense of momentum because of the drab visuals. The usage of... I've never seen such a bad usage of the volume as in that show. Some of the visuals were awful. It was grey, it was horrible. The stuff on the Star Destroyer did not look real at all. It was just so out of place, and it was so disappointing. And, you know, again, in that finale, the action was really limp. You know, I still have visions of Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka standing there doing this really slow lightsaber choreography, deflecting the lightsaber bolts, and I'm just like, this isn't exciting, this isn't fun. I'm not sure I like this, you know? But, you know, the first half of the show was completely different. It looked vibrant, the action was pacey, I was interested to see where it was going, and, yeah, it kind of all changed after episode 5. So, I know it's a minor nitpick, but I really don't love the saber hilt designs they have for the show. Really just bulky and quite honestly distracted me. Now, that's an interesting point, Jackson, because, as I mentioned, my next video, which I'm in the middle of editing right now, is going to discuss the concept art for the lightsabers, which we got some today from one of the concept artists, Adam Byrne. He released a bunch of images that he did for the Sith, Indira, and some of the Jedi. And honestly, I mean, obviously, some of them are really wacky and out there because it's concept art, but a lot of them are really, really interesting designs. Like a lot of gold inlaid designs, some really interesting concepts. things like tri-bladed lightsabers, which again, I don't think would work on screen, but still, the kind of unique design really plays into it. And the Sith lightsaber designs, although I don't have any complaints about Chimea's lightsabers, they were really unique. And I agree, I think that the lightsabers for the Jedi are a bit too bulky, thick. I know that they're supposed to, because if you know anything about the High Republic, you know that the Jedi had to kind of mass produce these bulky lightsabers during the confrontation with the Nihil, because they were losing the lightsabers, Jedi were getting killed, so they had to produce them, and there was no time for them to make them into pretty designs. So they were just these kind of like, these war-produced lightsabers that were just put together and like handed out. So, but this is decades after, so they should have been able to go back, and especially the younger Jedi and the Padawans, they should have been able to have their own designs again. And certainly I think Cal Naka, yeah, okay, it makes sense, he'd probably have a big thick lightsaber. But anyone else, they should have a fairly finessed design. So yeah. So maybe this is a Force triad. He will reveal May is your sister, your hers, and you're both mine. I am your brother. I will rage quit if Kamir says I am your Force father. I don't think that's going to happen. That sounds far too out there. Say many things for the story, but I think, there's certainly a sense of sensibility to it. It's not been too over the top. I think that, Leslie Headland, at the very least, she definitely knows her stuff, because, even with like Cortosis coming in last week, she has an appreciation for the history, and she's not afraid of bringing in EU elements. So I don't think that she would want to go too over the top with crazy twists and things like that. Which is why I think the Chimera stuff was probably signposted. They didn't want to focus on the twists purely. They wanted to kind of give you the clues and make you feel like you'd done something good because you figured it out. But they didn't want it to be too out there. I agree, Sol might die, but he will redeem himself before he does. Yes, it's weird because we don't even know what he has to redeem himself for right now. We just know that he's got a lot of guilt. So I always thought that Sol would have been the one. Like, I think Indira was the one that probably pushed on doing anything immoral, and Cal Naka probably went with it. But Torben clearly didn't agree, but he was a Padawan, so he had no power. So where Sol fits in with that? I don't know. Maybe Sol messed with their brains, because we know that Sol has the ability to do that. Yeah, some of the choreography was sluggish and lazy. Yeah, that's what I mean, is that, kind of static cameras, the circular sets that, had to fit into the volume, the slow action, the weird camera angles. It was a bit strange. So, did you all hear what's happening in Ahsoka Season 2? It's very exciting. I've heard some of the rumours, but we'll put it down to rumours at that point. One thing that I am glad that they seem to be in favour of is recasting, Ray Stevenson. I think that's probably the right decision. If they can get an actor who can have at least some of the same stage presence, then I'm very much in favour of us seeing more. Because that is an interesting story, and I've heard the rumours of where that story might go. I mean, clearly it's going to focus on the Mortis arc, but the potential there for the mother to be involved as well. So yeah, very much looking forward to Andor Season 2. Me as well. Although I'm sad it's only going to be the last season, I know that kind of that was the given, seeing as Cassian Andor is brutally murdered in Rogue One. There was only a finite amount of runtime for that show, but I think, given the fact that the first season was so good, has left people really wanting more. And I'd be very interested to see whether the people at Disney actually... Sorry. Got a bit of indigestion there. I think the people at Disney probably didn't even expect the positive feedback that came from Andor Season 1. So I think if they'd have known that ahead of time, they might have tried to stretch it to 3 seasons. But I think Tony Gilroy, they want him to work on other projects, which I'm all obviously I'm all in favor for. I think that, he's got a unique mind, and I think he is the perfect. A lot of the arguments over the last 4 or 5 weeks has been that, these writers, they don't know Star Wars, they don't care about Star Wars. Yet Tony Gilroy is on the record as saying that he doesn't really know Star Wars either. And that's what I think made Andor so great, is the fact that it didn't focus on Star Wars first and foremost. It focused on the story of rebellion and characters. It's like, that's what made it so good. It wasn't Star Wars nostalgia porn, and it wasn't just lightsabers galore. It was an intrigue. It was a sort of ground look at the goings on at that point in time, and all these characters who are, at different points. You've got the senator at the very top, you've got the criminal at the very bottom, and you've got everyone in between. You can see the bad guys doing their job. I just love it. It's so intricate and well thought out. But yes, it is going to be the last season, because it's going to take us right up to the events of Rogue One. Because again, I don't think they saw it being so successful. But they've said that they want Tony Gilroy to come back in and do more projects for them, which I think is great. I think Sol was a redeemed Darkseid user. They force-wiped him, and that is why Chimera knows him from the past. Jedi Master Ro is suspicious to me. So you think we get a bit of a Knights of the Old Republic 2 scenario? A bit of a, amnesia Dark Lord? I'm not sure. Perhaps. I don't think... This is the problem, is that if he does turn out to be a dark side character, it's going to have to be a hell of an acting twist, because he's come across as so genuinely nice and caring and compassionate. The idea that he could then turn on the flip of a dime and be like a Sith is really hard to grasp. But if he could pull it off, if he could go from like 0 to 100, because Chimera, if you look at Chimera, we knew he was shifty. We knew that he was kind of like morally grey to begin with, because he was dealing in poisons. He was like, he's a shifty character. But Sol is the exact opposite. He's a good guy. He's like a father figure. He's showing us caring about people. So for him to then turn and do that 180 would be difficult, but if they pulled it off, rewarding. Andor is honestly my favourite Star Wars TV series. Yes, Andor and Mando Season 1, peak Star Wars for TV. Krennic is going to be in it. Yes, Ben Mendelsohn is going to be back as Director Krennic in Season 2, which I'm really looking forward to. I love Ben Mendelsohn, and I loved Krennic as well. I thought he was a great villain, because he kind of emphasized everything that was wrong with the Empire. Like, you could work your arse off to be as villainous as possible and just have someone come in and take everything away, which is what Tarkin did. Krennic, yes, he had his issues. He wasn't fully competent, but he was clearly determined and loyal. And then Tarkin just comes in, and as with any competition and stuff like that, he was like, yeah, no, I'm taking the credit for this. So, Andor has a bunch of great acting all around, and yes, fantastic, right? Yes. Obviously, we don't need to Stellan Skarsgård, pretty much, you're getting your peak there. Andy Serkis, who saw that coming beforehand? They kept that secret so well. I don't think anyone knew that Andy Serkis was going to be in that show until he appeared in the, the 6th episode? Yes, brilliant. Have I read Headland's recent interviews? I've not really. I've seen little snippets. I've seen, some comments that she's made, but I've not read in detail, because I don't like being tipped off on things. I don't like being potentially spoiled, because I do feel like people in the media these days try and get people to slip up. I think they try and get the showrunners to say things they shouldn't, or they try and get answers where it's like, I don't want answers to the story. I'd like to know the obviously the logic behind it, what they think of the audience reaction, what they think of the characters, and how things are going. But I don't want them to outright come and say that, yes, this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or this is what that meant. It's like, at the end of the show, yeah, we can go and talk about the intricate details. But no, I've not seen much of the interviews recently. It's why I didn't look at a lot of the promotional material. I watched the trailers and that was it. Didn't watch anything else from there. I'm still so fascinated by them putting Kylo's theme in. The question is why. Yes, I mean, there was a reason. If you saw my video, I did midweek. I put Kylo's theme in it because, they put the theme in and it was very kind of on the nose. I think it is going to tie directly into the Knights of Ren. I think that's what we're getting here. I think we're getting a backstory for the Knights of Ren. Which is why I don't necessarily believe when anyone says that the Stranger is a Sith. Because it's very easy for people to try and swerve and say, oh yeah, he's a Sith. And he actually turns out not to be. Or maybe he's trying to break away from the Sith. Maybe he's trying to make his own, version. And that's how the Knights of Ren come about. It could well be that at the end of the show, we see, someone like Darth Tenebris, who is his master, show up and, Chimera betrays him, goes off on his own, forms the Knights of Ren, because he doesn't want to be a Sith. Maybe Soul starts the Knights of Ren. Who knows? But yeah, we'll have to see. That's the thing. That's the great mystery, is that we just don't know. And that, again, is going to make people ask questions. That's kind of how you do engaging storytelling, is you put little hints in of things that people know, but you don't make it very clear as to why, and then you get people asking questions. I am hoping that there is connectivity in the show to the Knights of Ren. Definitely not no Knights of Ren. I agree, it's a backstory to the Knights of Ren. So yeah, a few different opinions there. Obviously, would I like it to be a backstory to Knights of Ren? I'm not bothered one way or the other. The Knights of Ren, for me, were a disappointment. They had such potential when they showed up in The Force Awakens. And then they were so disappointing when they showed up again in The Rise of Skywalker. And again, the fact that they weren't featured at all in The Last Jedi was disappointing, because it felt like, even if they were just background villains, they could have done so much more. We should have seen them helping Kylo, do stuff. Like, did we see them kill anyone? I don't think so. I think we just saw them get killed. We saw them walking around, and then we just saw them get killed by Kylo, or by Ben, I guess, if you want to be technical at that point. There is the actor, forgetting his name, who hasn't showed up yet. I think, is that the one from Legends of Tomorrow that you're thinking about? But yeah, I don't really know too much. Did Kylo ever say he was a Sith? Did Snoke say he was a Sith? Have we assumed all of this because Palpatine was the puppet mastering? I mean, I know from the early interviews with JJ and Rian Johnson that they specifically were not Sith. Like, Kylo and Snoke were just dark side users. Obviously, with the reveal of Palpatine being the one behind it all, kind of muddies the water on that, but at no point does it state that Kylo considered himself a Sith. Because, I mean, the whole point in The Last Jedi is that he's saying, let's get rid of the institutions. No more Sith, no more Jedi. Let's just go out and do our own thing. Let's start new. Me and you. All right, we might be a little bit on the dark side. We might want to dominate the galaxy and suppress people. But you know what? We won't be Sith. So no, I don't think that they were Sith. And at the very least, they didn't consider themselves Sith. My more overriding question on that would be, did Snoke know at any point that he was a clone? Did he know his backstory? And if that's the case, what were his motivations? Were they fake? Were they implanted? Would he have been pissed off to find out that he was just, an off-strand of Palpatine? Who knows? Read the latest Headland interview. She suggests what the Kylo Ren connection is. I probably won't, because I don't want to know right now. Like, I know that the one thing she did say is that everything will be tied off by the end of the season. Like, the story will be resolved. So I can wait another few weeks. What is it? 2 weeks today, the finale? I can wait. I'm good. I've got patience. I want to be teased. I want the anticipation to build. Because especially at this point in the year when we've got so many other shows going on, we've got The Boys on Thursdays, we've got House of the Dragon on Mondays. So I'm more than happy to be distracted until we get the next one. David Harewood, yes, that's the guy. I think he was in Legends of Tomorrow. I've not seen that show, but I know he was in one of those Arrowverse shows. I thought we were going to get more story than Knights of Ren and Rise of Skywalker. I mean, technically we got more of them, but we just didn't get their story. One thing I enjoy about the Acolyte series is that it keeps people interested, making predictions and trying to uncover the mysteries of the story. Yeah, I think that, that's the big thing it needs to do, because it is a mystery story rather than anything else. It needs to engage people in, speculation. Anticipation is the biggest thing that you can do. It's what we live our lives for. We anticipate things. So that's what it needs to do. Rebel Soldier Dom, how are you doing? The music is not the Knights of Ren theme, it's Kylo Ren's theme. Big difference. Well, I mean, Kylo Ren is the leader of the Knights of Ren. Hence the name Kylo Ren. He's not the first Ren. He's a successor to the previous Ren. You could also say it's Ben Solo's theme, because there's a light side version of it, which is the same. It's the same beat. It's just a different. It's different percussion. So yeah, we'll see. It'll reveal itself. Kylo and the Knights of Ren were servants of the Sith. Inquisitors are also servants of the Sith, but they are not Sith. Well, yes, Inquisitors were servants. The Knights of Ren was supposed to be different, and certainly with the previous Ren, he was just a servant of the dark side. In the comics, it specifically states that they serve the lightsaber, that he has. They're not affiliated with the Sith. But again, with Palpatine coming back, they might have muddied the waters there a little bit in retrospect. Must admit, I do miss watching your reactions to Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. Yeah, but I've got to say, I enjoy not reacting to them now, because I can just sit down, watch it, turn my brain off, and I don't have to edit it. It's like, I know I've been complaining about the length of the episodes, but there is obviously an upside to that in that it's not as difficult to edit, because, I'll give you an example of what it's been like for the last few weeks doing the Acolyte. So the Acolyte starts at 2 o'clock in the morning here. So that means typically it finishes about 20 to 3. By the time I've gotten, ready to get editing, it's probably about 1:45. Takes me about half an hour to 45 minutes to edit the episode. So that goes to 3:15. Say another half an hour to render, that's 4 o'clock. Another half an hour to upload and process onto YouTube, do the thumbnail, so that's 4:30 in the morning. Provided that there's no issues with copyright, I can then set it live, get ready for bed, and I'm normally in bed for 5 a.m. And then I'm up for work at 7:30. So, obviously, if the episode was to be longer, you could add that on to each element of the process. So the recording, the editing, the uploading. So I probably wouldn't be getting to bed till about 5:30. So, there is that advantage to it. But also, I think, I've been really enjoying House of the Dragon, this season. I think it's been really good. But also, yeah, less of a pain to edit. What do you think of a series focusing on the Sith, the 100 years before the prequels, with each season potentially being a different duo of the Master and Apprentice dynamic? That's what I assumed this was going to be when it was first announced. I thought it was going to focus on the Sith in the High Republic era. And to an extent, obviously, we are getting that, but it's more from the perspective of the Jedi. But I'd like that. I just don't know how tangible that would be for the audience, because, again, Disney wants every show, regardless, to have an element of it to be relatable for the younger viewers. And if you're going to focus solely on the dark side, it is going to have to be something that is a bit darker, obviously, which might not be as... to do it properly, might not be as effective for that audience. So I honestly think that starting off, if you want to do those short, sharp stories, Tales of the Sith would be a good place to start. Rather than Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Sith. But put in some teasers in this show, and then maybe you could have something going forward. I'd like it, but I just don't think that they would take the risk, you know. We'll feel for the 3 dead Jedi from the original Brendok search party at the end of the series. I feel a connection to Soul, but the other 3 just seem to be story pawns, unfortunately. Well, I think that's the point. I think that it's a lot to ask for us to develop a deep connection with Indara, Torben, and Kalnaka, because we won't have enough time to get to know them. The reason that we feel an affinity for Soul is because we get to spend time with him. But there's 8 episodes, there's a lot of characters, so they are there just as pawns. They're there to say that Soul was not the only one there. He's not the only one at Fret. And they give different perspectives. You know, Torben is there to show the guilt. He's the youngest, the most innocent. He felt the guilt the most. And so that gives you a grounding basis to say, yeah, they did something bad. Because the most innocent of the party knew it. And he killed himself because of it. You know, someone like Indara or Kalnaka. I mean, Kalnaka, we can't understand him anyway because he doesn't speak basic. But, you know, Indara, she is much older, more experienced. And again, she might be more likely to have distorted the events or covered them up. Or she might not be fully honest. Soul is the one who, you know, we feel the most for because he feels like he's the most compassionate. And that he's the one who's most likely to rationalise things to the point where we can understand them. So, yeah, we probably won't feel a deep loss for them. We might feel some regret. I think certainly for Torben, I think because Torben, it looks as though in those flashback scenes, he's going to get attacked by Kalnaka. So I think that, you know, we will feel for Torben more than anyone else outside of Soul. But, yeah. Wednesday mornings must be very exhausting for you. Yes, work isn't fun on a Wednesday. Thankfully, I'm off the rest of the week because we've got the elections coming up in the UK. And, you know, I might do a election stream on the other channel Thursday night because I'm a bit of an election geek for anyone who doesn't know it. So I'm looking forward to that. So, yeah, I just booked Wednesday to Friday off this week. So I'm done with work for the week now. So I don't have to worry about staying up late tonight. I can enjoy it. Will episode 5 was dark? Will episode 6 be dark too? I don't think it'll be as dark. I think this is going to be very much a reflective episode. It's going to let us take in what's happened. It might give us a bit more explanation as to what happened on Brendok. We might get a couple of conversations with both Osha and the Stranger and May and Soul. I think there's going to be a lot of soul searching. See? I said Soul will be the sole survivor. This week is going to do some soul searching. I can do this every week. I can come up with a soul-related pun every week. Hey, Metallic, how you doing? I don't think we're out of the darkness yet. No, definitely not. There's going to be a resolution to this. You know, part of me thinks that the twins are going to swap roles. I think Osha might end up trying to fall to the dark side. May might get redeemed. So, you know, there's an interesting dichotomy there. But, you know, and this is something that, you know, I'm not afraid to criticize the show. You know, it definitely has its problems. And I think character-wise, for me, the twins are the biggest problem. The twins are the least interesting aspect of the show. And I think that is more from the point of you either need to give them everything or give them nothing, you know, in a show like this. They've had about half of the focus. The other half has been on Soul and the Jedi and now the Stranger. But I think for us to really integrate with the twins, we need all of the time on them. We need to know more about them. We've not had enough time to see their bond. And, you know, I'm not afraid to say it, but I don't think... Because it is just a single actor. It's just they aren't actually twins in real life. There is no twins. It's just one actor. I don't think she's the best. You know, I don't like criticising actors' performances, but, you know, if we're going to be honest here, I don't think she's been great, you know? So I think that's where I struggle trying to connect to the twins. And that's a problem because, you know, that they're a big part of the story. But thankfully, Soul, Chimera, and, you know, the intrigue is enough to carry us through. And, Jackie and Yord as well, but now they're gone. So, yeah. So, going to Montreal Comic Con this weekend. Hope to see some Acolyte cosplay there. Nice. Who are the guests going to be there? Anyone big? Does Soul know that May is faking? I think that he'll figure it out shortly. I imagine this episode, it won't take him long. Interesting times in the UK election. People are supporting a new party. Your thoughts? Is it a good or bad thing? Reform are not new. They're just renamed. It's weird because we had UKIP. First it was the BNP, and then UKIP, and then it was the Brexit Party, and now they're Reform. And those other parties still exist, with the exception of the Brexit Party, but they're kind of way smaller. It's just the next iteration. But it's just because now people are sick. Even the far right are sick of the Tories. So overall, it's not. I don't want to go too in depth on it. It's not a good thing, but it's not a terrible thing because either way, Labour is going to win. So there's no threat of the far right here at the moment. But I just don't think Labour is going to be effective. That's the problem. It's just going to be 5 years of centrist policies that keep us in the same situation. So, stuck in traffic at the moment. How are you? I'm good, very good. Yes, I'm looking forward to a few days off. The weather here has been awful. Like literally Monday, I went to work and it was raining. It was cold. It was like being back in winter. And I was like, what the hell? And it's been the same ever since. It's been grey and rainy. It's supposed to be summer. It's July. What the hell? Even in Britain, that's weird. Simon with the soul puns. Yes. Soul food. We need him in the kitchen to make some soul food. At this point, what do you hope for by the end of the season and into next season with the Acolyte? So that's assuming that we get a next season. I hope we do, because I think that there is more to tell. I hope that we get a definitive answer as to what happened with the Jedi on Brendok, and that there is a reasonable explanation for it. I hope that we get some kind of a resolution on who is pulling the strings. Like, we get to see the reveal of the second Sith, because there is a second Sith out there. The stranger isn't just looking for another apprentice. I think he is an apprentice, and his master is still out there. But as long as we get some clarity, because again, you look at it now, and we've got less characters to focus on. It is just literally going to be the twins, Chimera and Soul, and then Venestra when she shows up. I think as long as we get, some of those small elements tied up, like why aren't the Jedi Council alerted that, there's been a few Jedi killed, then that's fine. I still think Venestra has an interesting part to play. I think she's going to be a big part of the cover-up. And I did broach a theory that she is going to be the one that might, she might end up being a bad guy, but not a Sith. She's going to be like, shit, there's something I need to cover up here. Anyone who knows about it, off with their head. Jedi or dark side user. So she might end up coming after Soul himself. She might end up killing both of them. She might end up catching up. Like, imagine this. We get the final showdown with May, Osha, Soul, and Chimera. And, they're having this emotional chat about everything that happened on Brendok, everything that went on, why Chimera turns to the dark side, why May and Osha are the way they are, what happened, why does Soul feel so guilty? And just when it looks like things are going to get reconciled, maybe Chimera is thinking about turning away, or, May and Osha and Soul are going to gang up on him 3-on-1. Venestra shows up, lightsaber whip comes out, and you think, 4-on-1, Chimera is going down. And she just starts booming everyone. Like, she's there to cover everything up. No survivors. No one knows about the Sith. No one knows about the dark side user. And there's some kind of crashed ship story made up as to why the Jedi all died. That's a very plausible explanation. I know that people who were a fan of Venestra in the books probably won't like that, because that's a bit of a dark path for her to take. And it looks like she's been through a lot of shit already. But that'd be an interesting concept. Probably not executed very well in my version, but I'm not paid to write these things. I'm just an ideas person. So, yes. Where are we? I'm a little bit behind on the chat. I think Soul will tell me the truth of Night of Ascension to sway her to the light. He might even do it thinking it was Osha. I don't know. And that might sway her. But I think he is going to have an open heart discussion. He's going to pour out his soul to her. I'm going to stop with the soul puns because, it's terrible. Are the Tories right or moderate? The Tories are right. They were kind of leaning more into the far right up until, I'd say Boris Johnson left. And then they moved slightly back towards centre right, but they're still very much on the right side of the political spectrum. Thank you, Jay Welsh. I will enjoy my days off. They're probably going to be spent sleeping. Because again, not only am I going to be up all night tonight, I'm going to be up all night tomorrow night on Wednesday. Thursday, sorry, for the election. So Friday's probably going to be spent asleep as well. So, yeah. Wasn't aware it was a 5-year term. 5 years is a long time. Yes, 5 years in the UK, unless we have a snap election for any reason, which, we have had a few times in the last decade. Is Labour central? Brexit was left. Labour, they're supposed to be a centre-left party, but right now they're probably more centre, even centre-right, depending on how you look at some of their policies. But Brexit is very much, it's not about left or right-wing, it's just about people's views on immigration, because even some of the, I suppose it is probably more of a right-wing thing, but even people on the left kind of supported it. I hope things from Brendock's story gets solidified by episode 8. Keep the puns going, Simon. That's a good one, because I'm only thinking of Soul, but you're thinking more outside the box there. Giancarlo Esposito, Alan Tudyk, and Ray Park will be at the Montreal Comic Con. Tickets will get a picture with them are expensive, so I declined. Still, that's a pretty good lineup. I'm surprised Ray Park is still getting invited to stuff, because hasn't he? I know he did Solo, but then after that, wasn't there some issues with? Was it domestic abuse? I don't want to put anything out there that's untrue. Ray Park controversy. Let's just double check and see. Maybe it's on his wiki page. Because, I remember, obviously, there was excitement about him coming back to do Solo. But then Park, when it's first performed on Stewart, so they can prizes role for the 7th final season. Oh, so he did actually some work for the Clone Wars. Yeah, it's weird, because obviously he dropped off, but I remember there being some kind of controversy, some kind of video or something going around about him, but maybe it wasn't true, maybe the heat's died off, so. If Mark Hamill is invited one day to Montreal Comic Con, I will most definitely pay to get a photo op with him and a hug. Yes, I mean, there's always got to be an exception to the rule, where you're willing to pay a bit more than you might expect. In America, Brexit is considered populist and right-wing and racist. Is it left-wing in England? No, it is still populist. But there's a weird... The Brexit was a very strange thing, because a lot of people bought into the idea that if we left the EU, we'd have more benefits. And it went beyond the idea of immigration and things like that. Whilst the vast majority of people who still support it are populists and it's right-wing, there was some left-wing support. But for the most part now, you'll find the left-wing parties wanting to go back to the EU. Do I think that Osha and Chimera will fall in love? God, I hope not. God, I hope not. Star Wars very rarely does love stories well. That includes Anakin and Padme, by the way. I will say that I still do not necessarily get the on-screen chemistry between those two. And it might be because of the iffy dialogue. I don't know. I just never really got it. But I'm trying to think of romance in Star Wars that has really worked, other than Han and Leia. But that was less about. That was a real slow burn, And they never really got into a relationship until pretty much the end of the trilogy. They had a kiss, they flirted, they then Han got, put in carbonite. It just happens, isn't it? It just happens, it's the classic love tale, boy meets girl. Boy and girl fall in love. But they're complete opposites. And they don't know it. Boy gets locked in ice. Boy gets transported to, cartel drug boss. Girl has to disguise herself as a bounty hunter, threaten him with a grenade, and save the boy. And then the girl's secret brother shows up and everything goes to hell. It's a classic love story. Yeah, I can't think of many other Star Wars love stories that really work in live action. It's weird. Hey, Danimal, what a name. The show is garbage. I'm surprised 22 people are even waiting. Lol. I mean, how do you know they're not here just to see me? Maybe I'm better than the show. But I bet you'll watch. Danimal, you're going to be watching, aren't you? You're going to watch this show. You say it's garbage, but you're going to watch. Because you just can't help yourself, can you? All these people that say Star Wars is dead just can't help but keep watching Star Wars. It's funny. Anakin and Padme were cute. Cute, yes, but could you buy their chemistry? I don't know. I really don't know. Only controversy I'm aware of with Ray Park's only played Toad in X-Men. He may appear in Deadpool and Wolverine. If he appeared as Maul, I'd cry foul on RR and Disney, but this could be. Yeah, I don't know why. I knew there was something, but it mightn't have been as bad as I thought. But it definitely kind of... I suppose it wasn't really the best of times because Solo didn't do great, even though it wasn't that bad of a film. It was just the way it was released. It was terrible. Why release the same month as Avengers? 6 months after The Last Jedi? Are you fucking stupid? What were the executives thinking? Kanan and Hera, true, but I'm thinking live action. Because to be fair, with animation, you get a much longer time to build that relationship up. So it's not really fair to compare, Cult of Simon, yes, exactly. It's just people coming to see me, I'm one of the only sensible people on Earth. I like to think I'm sensible in most things. I'm very opinionated. I can definitely put my foot in it. Not every opinion is right. Not every opinion I have is popular. But I like to think that, I'm fairly level-headed and balanced. I'm willing to give everything a shot. And, I'm willing to let people have their say. And if you disagree with my opinion, I'm not going to, come out and attack you for it. As long as you've got a good logic behind why you disagree with me, then that's fair. If you don't like the show, tell me why. Give me a tangible reason outside of diversity and agendas. Okay, what agenda? Where has it been put into the story that's had a tangible effect? This is the thing that I always ask people. Whenever someone comes up to me and says Disney with their agendas are ruining Star Wars, I say to them, show me where in any of the stories that Disney has put out that a character's sexuality, race, or gender has had a tangible impact on the story. Now, you can sit there and say that a story has been bad. And yes, Disney has had its fair share of bad stories. But are the stories bad because a character is black or Asian or a woman or gay or straight? Or is it bad just because it's bad? That's the thing. That's the thing I don't get, is where is it you can pinpoint and tell me where diversity has had this negative impact? I can't see it, Bad writing is bad writing. And it's not even like we get that much, of the diversity, certainly in sexuality in Star Wars. I mean, outside of the Coven, which very similar in Andor with, what's the name of Mon Mothma's, is it her sister or her niece? Vel. Vel and her partner, and the two witches. The most that we ever got was like some touching, like some intimate touching. There was no kissing, there was no sex scenes, there was nothing there. You okay, buddy? We've had one very short gay kiss at the very end of Rise of Skywalker that was cut out in many markets. There's nothing about Star Wars that's really been that diverse in terms of like the story. I don't know. I'm just looking for some tangible evidence, some logic behind all of it. You know, I will happily debate people if they want to have a debate over, you know, diversity and the way it's implemented in Star Wars. Let's go. But you've got to tell me why. You are better than the show. Your soul puns are your saving grace. I'm glad that you enjoy them. You'll be sick of them after long, L, really. A cartoon romance was better than the film, sad. Well, I mean, it's not... Don't think of it as a cartoon. Think of it just as a different medium. It doesn't matter if it's live action or cartoon. It's about the people. It's still characters. It's still acting. It's still writing. It's still scripts. But animation, you get... It's just, certainly with Rebels, you were getting like 20 episodes a season. So that is 20, you know, half-hour episodes. So that's, you know, what is it? 10 hours of content every season, and there was 4 seasons, so that's 40 hours of content to build up those characters and that relationship. Whereas in a film, you've got 2 hours, and that's not comparable. So, you know, yes, I always expect animated shows or shows with longer runtimes to have better character relationships because that's what is expected, you know. So, yeah. Ray Park had some alcohol issues and would post rants on Instagram and then delete them after. Seems to be doing better now. That might be what it was linked to. It might have been like a drunken rant that I'm thinking of that got him in hot water for a time. They were not thinking Solo was decent and got the shaft by Disney. I have lots of problems with Solo, but timing is everything in media. Yes, I think that Solo released at Christmas in 2018 does far better than Solo released in May 2018. It's not perfect. It's a fun story. You know what? I liked Solo. I think it should have been a bit more colourful. It should have been a bit more, the cinematography should have been better. But I think, you know, for what it was enjoyable. It was a good self-contained story. You know, I thought the acting was really good. It was written pretty well. But like I say, it was just the visuals that kind of really let me down. And then, you know, obviously you put that in with the poor performance because of how it was released. And yeah. Who would you like to see star in a Star Wars movie or show that's never been in Star Wars media? Interesting. I would like to see... I'm going into my Matrix roots here. I would like to see Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Hugo Weaving. I think Hugo Weaving could play a great character. Ian McKellen. There's loads of talented actors, you know, that I think could come in and play a great role, no matter what they wear. You know, I think there's a place for everyone in Star Wars. It all starts with characters you can instantly get behind, write well, and everything falls into place. Disney is trying too hard. Do or do not. There is no try. I think it's just there needs to be consistency in the direction that they want to go, and I think that's something they've struggled with. You know, take The Mandalorian, for instance. The first season focused entirely on Din Djarin, and that let the character, you know, even though he's in a helmet, you don't see his face until the very end. He was still someone that you really connected with because you could feel what he was feeling. It was very relatable. And then as the waters get a bit muddied in season 2, you get a few extra characters. The story gets a little bit more overt. But then by the time season 3 comes along, and this is where really you've got the issue of planning and the willingness to sacrifice, you know, certain things, because it's clear that Pedro Pascal was filming for The Last of Us, so he wasn't there to be able to be in the show as much, which is why there was a heavier focus on Bo-Katan. And not that that's an issue, I don't mind Bo-Katan as a character, but I think, the show suffered for its lack of focus on Din Djarin. So if the showrunners had been willing to delay, even though it would have been, commercially, it would have been a sacrifice commercially, and the fans probably would have complained that it's taken so long. I think it would have been the right choice to have Pedro be there more consistently. But, it's not always possible. But that's what I mean, is that, there will always be commercial decisions made that are outside the showrunner's hands. So, yeah. Ian McKellen would be a good choice. Who knows? He could voice a Star Wars dragon or something. Yeah, I mean, we've already had a Doctor Who actor do a voice of a mysterious Force creature. So why not Gandalf? That'd be pretty good. I mean, it's on point, isn't it, as well? He played a wizard, so why not be a space wizard? And, it would tie in well because the fact Christopher Lee was Count Dooku as well. Just thinking the other day that the Enfys Nest, Enfys Nest crew and Solo was a copy of the Nihil from the High Republic books. Well, it would be more the other way around because they came first. So the Nihil would be a copy of them, just on the other side. Obviously Enfys Nest was fighting against the Empire for freedom. The Nihil were fighting against the Jedi for their own version of freedom, for chaos. So, yes. Yeah, there's a parallel there, but obviously it's the other way around because the Enfys Nest came first. Ian McKellen as Plo Koon. James Arnold Taylor based the voice off him. Ah. Interesting. I forgot to say hi to Daniel Berry. How you doing, Daniel Berry? Could Chimera be a gun-running Dark Force user employed by the Hutts to destabilize the Republic and the Jedi? He did say he worked for the Hutts. I don't know if he works for the Hutts. I think he has worked for the Hutts at points. I think his alter ego, I think Chimera, has had to obviously run in those circles because he is a kind of a fixer. He can do all kinds. He can get things. So I think that Chimera has run in those circles, but when he's the stranger, I think that he only works for either himself or his master. So I think that obviously his aim is to destabilize the Republic and the Jedi, but it's not because of the Hutts. It's because he's a Sith or a dark side user. I can't remember any amazing visuals from Solo. Why did it need to be a movie? Why that story? I think the story was actually quite good. It was just a heist story, with a little bit of moral intrigue, I think it was great. It's kind of like the idea that, Han Solo, in his early days, we see him kind of be the sort of renegade that he is, the smuggler, the pilot. But, we see that kind of moral quandary he has at the end, where he's got a choice of delivering the fuel for a big profit or giving it to the good guys to help them in their cause. It wasn't a bad story, but the visuals were the thing that let them down alongside the release. There was some good visuals. I think the Maw was really good, where they're basically trying to escape from the black hole at the center of the Maw itself. I thought that was really good. It's just, again, most of the planets they were on were fairly featureless. Whether it's Mimban, whether it's, the planet where the ore harvesting was taking place. Even the place where they fought, or they met Enfys Nest, it was kind of just like a pale beach, So, yeah. What are my thoughts on the Acolyte so far? So, in the first 5 episodes, it has been up and down. I've enjoyed it. I think at the moment I'd probably be giving the show a 7 out of 10. I think that where it's excelled has been in its kind of mystery building, the kind of intrigue behind what's going on. I think that the visuals have been very good. The certainly the costume design has been excellent. The action has been on point, especially last week's episode. You know, the choreography, despite what some grifters might try and slow down and break apart and nitpick, you know, will tell you, it was really good. It was entertaining. It was fun. It was different. But there's been issues, no doubt. You know, I think that some of the acting has been subpar. I think the pacing and the editing could have been done better. There's been elements that have felt out of place. Like, for a perfect example, the end of episode 1, where we first see the stranger. You know, May is just there all of a sudden. Just kind of like, oh, we're on a different planet. You know, I know they filmed that in Madeira, but it's kind of like just felt out of place. It's like, oh, well, we've gone from all of this to just suddenly May with the stranger, and then it's quick soundbite, and then boom, ended. And then we don't go back there. So it felt a bit out of place. But I'm enjoying it, and it's hard to make a full verdict until we get the very end, you know. But I like Soul, I like Yord, I like Jackie, I like Chimere. I think he's a great character. I'm engaged with the story for the most part. I want to know what happened. Yeah, there are some cringe elements to it, you know, and like I say, the acting has been a little bit wonky in parts. I don't buy into the twins. I'm not really invested in them, but I'm definitely invested in Chimere and Soul, and I was invested in Jackie and Yord. But it's one of those where, like, if you don't think too hard on it or expect too much, it's neither here nor there. It's not the best thing ever made. It's not the worst thing ever made. It's not going to reinvigorate Star Wars to the masses, and it's not going to kill Star Wars. It's just there to be a fun story, to potentially be a springboard for a new era in terms of timeline, and to, you know, try and set off maybe a bunch of different shows and potentially get a second season. Again, I don't quite know where $180 million has gone, if that is true. I still don't know if that's an accurate figure, because I don't think it's ever been confirmed the budget was $180 million. But I don't quite know where it's gone. It's not looked cheap, but it's not looked expensive either, if that makes sense. You know. So, episode 6, The Revenge of Yord. Yes. Well, maybe he can't be a Force Ghost. No one, well, unless we find out differently. I was going to say, because Force Ghosts don't really become a thing until Qui-Gon. Somehow Yord survived. I wish. Maybe he just, like, he was taking a bit of a nap. Or maybe he was just temporarily paralyzed. But no, I think Yord's dead. It takes a butter knife to kill a Jedi not being eviscerated by a lightsaber. Now, again, this is where it's like a little bit of critical thinking needs to come in. A little bit of critical thinking, because when you think about it, it's not a butter knife, okay? It is a sharp knife, firstly, and it was to the heart. You know, I don't know how much you know about human anatomy, or how you probably don't realize just how we really are quite fragile. Like, you can bleed out from a simple cut to your thigh very quickly, because, you know, you have, at certain points, you have your major blood vessels and arteries very exposed. So if something penetrates them, it doesn't need to be big, it doesn't need to be super sharp, it just needs to be very accurate. You're going to die very quickly. Lightsabers, you know, yes, I do have a bit of an issue with their overuse in terms of stabbing people in the stomach and they survive, but I would say that it's more believable because you've got cauterization. You know, certainly Sabine's, if you look at it, Sabine was stabbed through the stomach. That is a survivable injury if you cauterize it and get medical assistance quickly. The one I will say was a little bit more hard to take was Reva, because she got stabbed through the spine, and as far as I'm aware, didn't get medical help. You know, I've got no problem with the Sabine one, but, you know, for people to try and say that, Indira shouldn't have died to that knife just because someone survived a lightsaber stab, I think you're grasping straws a little bit, you know. Interesting to see the Sith at the bottom of the barrel at this point. They're not captains of industry or senators at this point, like Palpatine or Plagueis. Yeah, because they had to hide in the background. As with anyone, they're going to have different levels of fortune and success. I'd say that Chimera is a bit of a, not necessarily a captain of industry, but I think he's quite a maverick. He seems to be fairly successful in his own right. He's a, he is someone who is very capable. He's got contacts, he's clearly worked with some dodgy people. So until we know who his master is, we don't really know for sure. An entire flashback episode, not necessarily. Yeah, probably not, but we won't know until we get the full story. It could well be that there's a lot more there than we know, and they needed to flesh out the entire thing. But again, there's going to be mistakes made. Wrong! Acolyte is the worst made so far. That's your opinion. That's your opinion, Dick. And you are entitled to that opinion, Dick. Being a Jedi doesn't suddenly change your anatomy. No, it doesn't. I mean, I know we're assuming that anatomy is the same. This is a galaxy far, far away. And although they look like humans, they resemble humans, we don't know for sure that everything is in the same place. Or that, they are any more or less fragile than us. Either way, does it really matter? Does it really matter how big the blade was? She got stabbed in the heart. Would you prefer she survived it? She got up and said, you bitch, you stabbed me. Now I'm really mad. I mean, I don't understand the point of the complaint, Sure, you can be annoyed that maybe lightsabers are used a little bit too wantonly and the injuries shouldn't be survivable. But, that's just by the by. It's not happened that much. Kylo was healed by Rey, using the Force. Like I say, Reva's is the one that Reva and the Grand Inquisitor, they were the two that I couldn't quite get my head around. Sabine's one was fine, because, it wasn't a huge, gaping wound to the heart or anything. It was through her stomach. It's not going to kill you immediately, especially if it cauterizes the wound. And then she pretty much got immediate help at a clearly advanced medical facility. So... yeah. Just stop thinking so much. It's Star Wars. It's a space fantasy. It's space opera. How do you think Osha will react to being with Chimera the Stranger? I think, you know what? People have been saying that Soul might be the one to reveal the story. I think from the audience's perspective, we're going to get Chimera telling the story. And that's what's going to convince May to turn to... or at least... influence her away from Soul. Yeah. It might even be that we get different versions of the story. Maybe Chimera remembers it differently or twists it. And Soul, like in The Last Jedi, we saw the different perspectives from Ben and Luke, and then the actual truth. The truth is somewhere in between. Maybe we'll do something similar here, where we'll get a version from Chimera, and then we'll get a version from Soul. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. Everyone's at fault, but it's not quite as bad as one person is putting it across. It'll be interesting to see the uproar when they pull out the lightsaber whip. Yeah, I don't get that, because the lightsaber whip was a thing in the EU, wasn't it? And it's hardly the weirdest thing that's ever been done in Star Wars. Is it that hard to believe that there could be a lightsaber whip? Is someone going to sit down and try and start to talk about the logic of the physics of a lightsaber blade? Because if so... I think they've lost the point on what a lightsaber is, because a lightsaber shouldn't even be possible. I don't know. Just stop trying to apply real-life physics to Star Wars. Enjoy it. It's fun. I meant Ian McKellen, by the way. James Arnold Taylor based his Plo Koon voice on him. Oh! That makes sense. Well, we're not too far off. We're only 9 minutes away. So, final... predictions. What do we think is going to happen? Are we thinking it's going to be a flashback episode? Do we think that Osha's going to turn to the dark side? Do we think we'll find out what's going to happen? What happened on Brendok? Do we think Venestra is going to show up and start whipping folks? What do we think is going to happen? I think it might be a mix of everything. I think that we're going to get some face-to-face scenes with the twins and their respective captors. And I think that we're going to get a bit of a flashback. What do we think of episode length as well? Last week's episode, I think, was 36 minutes, 34 minutes even, all in. I'm hoping, all in, at least 40 minutes. I think the longest episode so far has been 44 minutes. I'm hoping that we beat that today. I think we need a longer episode to kind of come back down on, to let things kind of level out. Fingers crossed. But yeah, last minute predictions before we sign off, because I'm going to go make a cup of tea, get ready to sit down and react. My reaction will be out a bit later, and then I'm planning on having a video up as well tomorrow, if not tomorrow, then the next couple of days, about the concept art behind the lightsabers, because I think that's a good thing to look at. 35 minutes, is that including adverts and, not adverts, credits, or do you think that's 35 minutes all in? L. Because that would be, I think, 1 minute longer than last week if that's the case. What if Ki-Adi-Mundi in this series is his dad? Legends retcon Greedo as Greedo Senior, Greedo Junior. Yeah, Ki-Adi-Mundi Senior. I'm sure I mentioned that in last week in my pre-watch party. It could be his dad. It could be Mr. Mundi Senior. Yeah. Nothing to say it wasn't. I mean, yeah, he looked like him, and, you know, it said Ki-Adi-Mundi, but until his son is born, he isn't Ki-Adi-Mundi Senior. He's just Ki-Adi-Mundi. So, yes. But yeah, I'm going to sign off. We've got 5 minutes to go, folks, so I'm going to go get my cup of tea. But I hope you've all enjoyed. We'll be back again next week for another pre-watch party. So, yes, join us again for around that time. But thank you for watching, folks. Hopefully this will be a good episode. I will see you on the other side of it. In the meantime, enjoy it. And yeah, I'll speak to you very soon. Have a